Do you remember when we tried to catch Santa? I laughed. No, I remember you sneaking into the room where Santa was going to be and dragging me with you. Felicia giggled. Right. There's no way Saint Christina would ever do anything. She faked a gasp. Bad. I gave a chuckle before gulping some more cheap beer. I was proving her wrong just by doing that, considering that 19 wasn't exactly the legal drinking age. The chilly night air nipped at my nose. Despite it being only 4 p.m., the sun was already setting. The empty parking lot spread out as far as the eye can see. I wish we could go see the lights this year. I sighed. Yeah, I can't believe this place went under, Felicia said, turning her head towards the wood wall we were leaning against. An old and weathered picture of a candy cane hung on it. Beyond the wall lay Dreamland. It really wasn't that surprising that the place had went under. The old park hadn't changed a thing since its debut in the 50s. But still, me and Felicia had no problem enjoying it when we were young. This now abandoned piece of local history held so many sweet memories for us. That's why we were there. One last hurrah, Felicia had said, before I headed off to study pre-med in Pennsylvania. Well, look at the bright side. At least we never had to see those creepy mannequins again. I joked. Yeah, your girlfriend freaked out when you took her with us that one year. I never knew somebody could be that afraid of the old woman who lived in a shoe. I playfully punched Felicia on the shoulder. Lily didn't freak out, she just wasn't prepared. Though I have to admit it, the little shriek of terror she gave me when passing the 20-foot stone shoe was really funny. I looked up at the sky. It had turned to a light purple color. The lights were going to be flicked on any time now. Well, they would have been flicked on any time now. As much as we joked, a deep sense of sadness flowed through me. It was almost physically painful to think that I would never see the thousands of Christmas lights illuminating Dreamland again. Felicia must have picked up on my sadness, or maybe she felt the same thing. She took my hand. We have been counting down to when the lights were turned on since the 2nd grade. One more time wouldn't hurt. I smiled at Felicia and I gripped her hand. We began counting in unison. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The light suddenly poured from beyond the wall. I was so startled that I jumped a little. Felicia looked just as confused as I was. I was about to say something when the music started playing. It was a little bit hard to hear, but I had heard Santa Claus is coming to town so many times that it was easy to recognize. I thought it was closed, I said after a moment of stunned silence. Me too. Felicia stood up and reached her hands onto the top of the wall. With a grunt, she pulled herself up just enough to see Dreamland. Oh my gosh, it's opened, she said excitedly. Really? I had seen the local newspapers saying that Dreamland was shutting down. It seemed weird that they would get such an important detail like that wrong. But then again, I had read that article a couple of months ago. It was possible that they mentioned it was going to be open for one last season. Maybe I just didn't remember it. Totally. There are people inside and the rides are on. A mischievous smile appeared on her face. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? I knew what she was implying. We can't. We'll get caught. Oh, don't worry, Felicia said. We're near the back. I can barely see anybody. No one's going to notice us. Please, Chris, don't you want to go there one last time? I really should have said no, but I was tipsy and all I could think about was all those winter nights spent as a kid, running around the park, bathed in the glow of 1,000 Christmas lights. I gave in to my desire to go there one last time. I went with Felicia over the wall and into Dreamland. Stepping into Dreamland was like stepping into another world. The first thing that stood out to me was Santa's cottage. It was modeled to look like a large wood cabin with fake snow painted on the roof. Plastic elves waved in front of the door, and right outside there was an empty red sleigh. Across from the cottage was the gigantic tree that stood in the middle of Dreamland. Strings of lights made the ornates of the tree glisten. There were lights everywhere, in the shapes of candy canes, angels, gingerbread men, all kinds of Christmas icons, really. There weren't a lot of families there, just a few of them, but still, a familiar warmth lit up in my chest. I looked at Felicia. I could tell from her huge smile that she was feeling the exact same joy that I was feeling. She grabbed my hand and we were off, running to our favorite rides like we were 8 years old again. The rides were all made with little kids in mind, but that didn't matter. Just the feeling of the chilly air hitting my face as we rode the rides and Felicia's laughter was more than enough. All of the classics were up and running, from the dragon-themed mini coaster to the Tilt-A-Whirl. I hadn't had this much fun in months. There was an era of such innocence and joy. Months of stressing over money and moving were all forgotten. I was gritting so hard that my mouth started to hurt. Eventually, Felicia and I sat down on a bench. I watched a child walk with their parents across the railroad tracks, just missing the small wooden train that carried a couple of passengers. And then I looked up to the sky. The glow of the many lights was so beautiful when contrasted against the black sky. I forgot how much I love this place, Felicia said almost reverently. I nodded in agreement. It really lives up to its name. Thanks for convincing me to sneak in here. That's what I'm here for. I'm the bravery. You're the brains. I giggled. I guess I'm going to have to put the brains part to the test. Pemberton is going to be so hard. Yeah. Felicia looked away for a second. Do you really have to go? Grant College is still good and 10 times less expensive. I blinked. Well, yeah. I have to go to Pemberton. It's my dream school. I was so lucky to get that scholarship. I just can't put it to waste. I mean, plus, Lily is going to go there too. Felicia looked down. Yeah, stupid of me to think you would really want to stay here, she said in an extremely bitter tone. What? No, it's not that at all. I took her hands in mine. It's my dream school. I worked so hard to get there. I don't want to leave anything. You just wanted to go somewhere else. Felicia interrupted. She roughly pulled her hands away. You know, you're probably going to hate that place. You've always been terrible at making friends. You remember Jackie? I flinched slightly at that memory. Jackie was the first close friend that I had made since I met Felicia in the first grade. We were thick as thieves, until I told her that I was a lesbian. And then she suddenly stopped talking to me at all. And the entire school seemed to know that I was gay within a week of me telling her that. It was mostly just stares and whispers, but there were nastier examples of bullying, reaching a peak with the slur being written on my locker. Jackie never apologized for what she did. She avoided me for the rest of our school days. Whether out of guilt or bigotry, I don't know, and I still don't care. It was all extremely painful for me to remember. And Felicia knew that. She was the one whose shoulder I cried on all of those nights. I glared at her, feeling betrayed. Like you're the one to talk. You have even less friends than I have. Felicia snorted. I have other friends. Do they count as friends if they only like you when they're drunk? Now it was Felicia's turn to flinch. Felicia's mother was always more interested in the bottle of wine than she was in her own daughter or anything else for that matter. When she was younger, Felicia promised that she would never drink a drop of alcohol. But by high school, she was boozing it up at every party. She hated anybody bringing that up though. I could tell that it made her feel ashamed. I felt guilty bringing it up, but my anger had drowned it out. Screw you, she said simply before walking away. Oh, so you can dish it out but you can't take it. I yelled after her. She didn't turn back. I stormed off, ready to head to the exit. I was so distracted by my anger, I accidentally bumped into a man walking with his family. Oh, I'm sorry, I mumbled. I was going to keep walking, but I noticed the man stumbling. His wife and daughter stopped and he looked at him. He took a second to adjust himself. "Are you okay?" I asked the man. "Oh, yes, I'm fine," the man said, but he had a slow, unsteady walk. The voice was a bit stilted. I felt a little bad, and somehow I got even madder at Felicia. She was always getting me into trouble with her crazy plans. Where did she get off on judging me? I ended up wandering to the old woman who lived in a shoe set. It was a small stone building made to look like a shoe, with a glass window in the middle to let you see the mannequins in the scene from the nursery rhyme. I leaned against the building, trying to cool off from the anger. I peered into the window, almost absent-mindedly. I blinked in surprise. There was supposed to be an old woman mannequin along with more than a dozen little kid mannequins, but there wasn't anything in there. Just the empty set. Out of curiosity, I began looking to the fairy tale recreations. From Sleeping Beauty to Little Red Riding Hood to even the large bears in the Goldilocks set. They were all gone. That was strange. Why would you get rid of them? Thinking back, I looked over to Santa's cottage. Even on the really slow days, there was always a line of kids waiting to see Santa. Yet there didn't seem to be any line today, even inside. In fact, it didn't seem like it was open at all. If the mannequins being gone was strange, this was just bizarre. "Chris!" I was pulled out of my thoughts by Felicia calling my name. She slowly walked up to me, her eyes stuck to the ground. I crossed my arms. I was still angry over what she had said. Felicia took a long breath. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have brought the Jackie stuff up. It's... She took another long breath. "What is it?" I asked. I was still angry, but Felicia sounded so pained. "You know how I said I was going to grant. Well, that was a lie." Tears started to run down Felicia's face. "I don't have the money to, and even if I did, I don't know what I'd want to do." "Felicia." I was shocked that she didn't tell me this before. We had always told each other everything. I was also mad at myself. I should have figured out that something was wrong. I was just so busy with getting ready for college I didn't pay any attention to her. "It wouldn't be so bad except you're going." Felicia's voice was shaking. "I'm going to be all alone." I pulled her into a hug. "You're not going to be alone. I'm sorry I brought the drinking stuff up. You know you're like a sister to me. My parents will check up on you and I'll call you every day. I promise." Felicia didn't look like she believed me. "Hey, I know. Why don't we go to the Hickory Dickory Dock Drop Tower? That's your favorite ride," I suggested. It was a lame attempt to keep Felicia's mind off of her troubles. I didn't know what else to say. But still, Felicia nodded and let me lead her to the tower. There was no line from the drop tower. The ride operator strapped us into the seats. I figured that the cold must have been getting to him since his hands were stiff and clumsy. I looked nervously at Felicia. While she still seemed troubled, Felicia was actually getting excited for the drop. I felt relieved. We started slowly ascending to the top. I looked over Dreamland, enjoying the beauty of the lights and the decorations. And then I noticed something. People were watching us go up. At first, I really didn't think much of it. But I looked around more. Every person I saw on the ground had their eyes on us, their heads slowly moving upwards with our seats. I was so distracted by this that I didn't notice we had gotten to the top. I was about to ask Felicia if she had noticed it too, when we dropped. Normally, it was a fun thrill. However, this time, it felt like I was being pushed to the ground by a great force. The ride stopped and then began ascending after a moment. It took me a second to regain my train of thought. I thought that maybe I was just mistaken. I looked again just to make sure. But unfortunately, that was my real mistake. They were all looking up at us. I turned to Felicia, expecting her to notice it too. But she was just smiling like a little kid, completely unaware of all the dozens of eyes glued to us. Felicia, everyone is... Before I could continue, our seats dropped again. I had been going on this ride for years. The drops always happened in the same order. There was never a drop this soon after the first one. I gave a loud scream. When we came to a sudden stop, I looked up to see the ride operator staring at me. His eyes were both emotionless and somehow intense despite that. The ride began to ascend again. People were still staring at our seats, but this time, their eyes were all pointed to me and only me this time. While Felicia was laughing and cheering, I was too scared to speak. What a rush! Felicia cheered. She nearly skipped out of the ride queue. I slowly got off of the ride, watching the ride operator closely. He just stared back coldly, not saying a word. Felicia, I mumbled. I think we should probably go soon. What? Felicia quickly turned to me, looking upset and confused. Why? Well, I couldn't say that everybody in the park was staring at us while we were on the ride. Without any proof, I would seem crazy. I think it's going to close soon and it's super cold. I mean, plus we've already gone on all the rides already. No, we haven't. Felicia protested. We haven't gone on the train yet. I bit my lip. She was right. We had went on the train every year. Okay, I reluctantly agreed. Just let me go to the bathroom first. Do not get on the line without me. Felicia nodded, and I made my way to the bathroom. I went in and nearly collapsed. I went to the sink and I splashed water on my face. I tried to calm down. I tried to tell myself that I was just imagining things. I took a deep breath, and then I noticed something. I seemed to be the only one in the bathroom. When was a theme park bathroom ever empty, even in a small one like Dreamland? I began to think of some other stuff that seemed off, like how I hadn't seen a single person leave Dreamland, or how the restaurant and other concession stands seemed to be closed. I couldn't remember even hearing anybody else talk besides Felicia. It was easy to overlook when I was already having so much fun with my best friend, reveling in the nostalgia the park brought me. But when I put it all together, it was deeply unsettling. I decided to get Felicia and leave right then and there. The sooner that we left this park, the better. As I was leaving, I kicked something. I looked down and I saw a wicker basket. Well, it looked like a wicker basket. When I picked it up to examine it, I realized that it was made of plastic. It reminded me of the basket the Little Red Riding Hood mannequin would carry on its arm. What the hell? I threw the basket on the ground and I left the bathroom. As I roughly opened the door, the trash can got knocked over. Its contents spilled onto the ground. I stopped and I stared. It looked like a bunch of costumes and props. I got a closer look and I picked up what seemed to be a dress. I realized that I recognized it. It was the dress that the Cinderella mannequin always wore. I dropped it on the ground. I looked through the rest of the costumes. They were all from the mannequins. I got up and I stepped away from the pile as if it could attack me at any moment. I turned my gaze back to the basket. I was so confused. Even at the park throughout all the mannequins, why would they throw out the costumes and props in a random trash can in the park, where anybody could find it? The memory of the man I bumped into earlier shambling away. The ride operator's stiff hands and blank eyes. The silence of everybody else in the park. It was almost like, no, I thought. That's insane. But nothing else seemed to make sense. A horrible feeling was spreading over me. I just wanted to leave. I tried to find Felicia. My blood ran cold when I examined my surroundings. Felicia wasn't near the bathroom anymore. No one was. The park seemed absolutely empty. The only sounds that I could hear were a cover of Silent Night, playing over the loudspeakers and my own breathing. "Felicia!" I yelled. I started running, calling her name. "Felicia, where are you?" I ended up tripping on the train tracks that ran through the park. When I got up, I saw Felicia standing completely still. I ran up to her. "Felicia, we've got to go." Felicia didn't even seem to hear me. "Felicia, come on." I pulled on her arm. She still didn't move an inch. "They talked to me." She spoke at last. My heart jumped in my throat. "What?" I croaked. "Over the loudspeaker, while you were in the bathroom. They said that they knew me. They knew us." Felicia's eyes were wide and unfocused. Who? Who said that?" I demanded. "We did." A cold chill went through me when I looked forward. There were dozens of people in front of us. They seemed to appear from nowhere. Who are you?" I asked after processing what I was seeing. A woman started walking towards us. Her movements were slow and jerky. She stepped into the light. She was elderly and very short. I recognized her clothes at first. I had seen her walking around before. Her face was also familiar, but I just couldn't place it. And then I really looked at her face. She was smiling, but it wasn't normal. Her face didn't move at all. Her eyes were blank. The lights were glistening off her eyes strangely, almost like they were made of glass. A jolt went through me when I realized where I had saw her before. I had seen her more times than I can remember. She was the old lady who lived in the shoe. Her head slowly tilted, her face never moving, eyes never blinking. "Little Christina remembers." Her lips didn't move, but I could still hear her voice clearly. "What are you?" I gasped out. "We are the fairy tale, silly." Her mouth still didn't move. "The children would come and see us, and we would see them. We saw you. We saw both of you." "You saw me? Really?" Felicia asked. I expected her to be just as horrified as I was, but she seemed touched. "Yes, poor Felicia, so sad. Poor Christina, so lonely. But you brought each other such joy. It was so beautiful to see. We loved to see her smiles. The smiles of every child was special to us." Her head tilted back. "The rulers of Dreamland took that away from us. They left us to rot, alone and forgotten. No more smiles, no more laughter, just silence, forever." Up to this point, the old woman's tone was eerily calm and pleasant, like a preschool teacher reading a class a story. However, when she began to talk about Dreamland shutting down, there was an undercurrent of anger. "But you remembered us." Her tone changed to something approaching true happiness. "You came back. Out of all our special children, you returned to see us again. It made us so happy." The old woman took steps forward. I stepped back. I pulled on Felicia's hand to pull her back with me, but she stayed put. "So, we tried to make you happy. You were happy, weren't you?" I didn't dare respond. To my shock, Felicia nodded her head. All of the mannequins behind the old woman stepped forward. The old woman began to speak once again. "Can I ask you sweet girls a question? Do you want to stay with us forever?" "What?" That was all I could choke out. Fear and just plain shock was making it hard to even breathe. This was feeling more like a strange nightmare the longer this went on. The world outside is dark and mean and cold. The woman began. You two know that better than most. Stay here with us forever. You won't know only joy. No sadness and no fear. She and the other mannequins behind her raised their arms in a slow manner, holding them out as if preparing for an embrace. Stay with us, they chanted. Stay with us. No way, I yelled. I pulled hard on Felicia's hand and I started to run. However, Felicia didn't move at all. Felicia, we need to run. Instead of running, she just turned to look at me. Why? I couldn't believe what Felicia had just said. What? Why would you just ask that? The world chews and spits out most people like us. And even worse, nobody gives a shit about it. She yelled with unexpected passion. She then took a deep breath. Please, Chris. This place, it's so magical. We won't have to worry about anything anymore. Think about it. No more stress about college and money. No more people treating you like garbage just because of who you love. No more parents who don't care. Felicia's hands gripped mine even harder. We won't ever have to leave each other. As scared as I was, I had to admit it. It was tempting. Everything was so much simpler in Dreamland. I could be happy here forever. For a second, I almost said yes. And then a memory of Lily's face smiling flashed through my mind. If I stayed here, I would never get to see her again. I would never see my parents again either. I would never get to be a doctor or make new friends or anything else. I shook my head. I know you're scared about the future, but if you don't face it, nothing will ever get better. Felicia glared at me. You don't know that it'll get better. I laughed. A type of madness brought me from panic and desperation coursing through me. You're right. I don't know that things will get better for you. But I do know that if you don't leave, you'll never get the chance to find out. Please, Felicia, I begged. Felicia looked at me for a long time, and then she looked down at the ground. She brought her eyes up. She was crying. Felicia gave me a sad smile, tears running down her face. You're gonna be a great doctor, Chris. And then she pushed me over the train tracks. Before I could even react, the train came rushing on the tracks, separating her from me. Felicia! I screamed. I tried to get up, but someone pulled me down. It was the ride operator from the drop tower and the man I bumped into earlier. Now that I could see their faces clearly, I recognized them as the princes from Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella, respectively. I tried to break free of their grip, but they just dragged me on the ground. I fought and I kicked and I screamed, but I couldn't break free. Soon I realized that we were almost at the exit. With all of my might, I finally got out of their grip. I was about to run to catch Felicia and drag her out myself if I needed to. However, one of the fake princes grabbed my arm again, and this time, he broke it with a sickening snap. I nearly blacked out from the pain right then and there. Blinded by pain, I didn't notice the mannequins grabbing me until they literally threw me out of the door. I managed to turn myself on my back, but I could see the lights from the park turning off. Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas was cut off abruptly. Somewhere deep down, I knew that it was too late. Felicia was gone, lost to Dreamland. The last thing I remember from that night was watching snow fall from the sky like ash. I woke up in a hospital room. Apparently the owners had showed up to clear the place and found me lying near the front, unconscious and with a broken arm. And then the police went inside Dreamland to see what had happened to me. They saw all of the mannequins back in their usual places. They found no evidence of any rides being on or signs of people, other than Felicia and I being there last night. They did find Felicia's dead body next to a suicide note, though. I felt numb for months. Lily and my parents are probably the only reason I didn't completely self-destruct. I went to Pemberton. It was hard. Way harder than it would have been if Felicia hadn't passed away. But still, I was able to move on. I focused on my studies to an almost obsessive degree. Lily and I moved in together. I even made some new friends. It was going so much better than I could have ever thought. Until I got the letter. It was 2 weeks from Christmas. Lily and I were going to our hometown next week. It was really hard. The stress of finals was bad enough, but the memories of what had happened last year were being brought back up. I got the mail from the mailbox absentmindedly as I went into my house. I collapsed in a chair. Lily was going to come home from work soon. I thumbed through the mail. Bills, bills, and more bills as usual. And then at the very back of the pile was a letter that caught my eye. There was no return address, for one thing. No address at all, actually. My heart started to beat faster when I saw the stamp. It was a stereotypical cartoon princess smiling. It was the logo of Dreamland. With shaking hands, I opened the letter. There were only a few words on it. My entire world went black. Lily found me crying on the floor when she got home. She tried to comfort me, but when she read it, her face turned white. Dear Chris, Merry Christmas. I miss you. Your friend, now and forever, Felicia.